Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this presentation on Don't Just Find a Job, Build a Career. They're going to be 10 practical steps to advance you in your job search and your career. And my name is Choolwe Mandona, and I'm going to introduce myself pretty soon in the presentation. So welcome. So on the agenda for this presentation is going to be an introduction of myself. We're then going to go into the challenges, um, asking or rather answering these questions of how do I find a job? How do I begin to build a career? And then we're going to go into the 10 practical steps. From there, we're going to have some conclusions. And I invite you to ask questions at the end of the presentation. And if there is time, we can also have a discussion. So you can give your feedback, your comments. Would love to learn as well from you. So, introduction, who am I? My name is Choolwe Mandona again. I am a civil chemical engineer. I am registered as a professional engineer in Colorado. I graduated from the Miami University of Ohio in 2013 with a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering. I decided to move on and pursue a master's in civil engineering at the University of Colorado, Boulder. And after I completed my graduate studies, I went on to join the industry in the engineering consulting space. I've been in the engineering consulting space for over 5 years now. One of my passions is mentoring early career professionals, but also mentoring engineering students who are about to graduate and want to join the industry. In fact, currently right now, I am a member of the Early Career Professional Steering Committee within the company I work for, Mandona, where I get to create initiatives and programs for early career professionals to create that engaging culture within the company. So I'm pretty fortunate enough to continue this in my own job. And so I'm pretty grateful to be here, to be presenting what I'm going to be talking about today. So with that, let's get started. So one of the motivations of this presentation is over the years, I have been mentoring engineering students and, like I mentioned, early career professionals. And they come to me in different parts of the world, really. And I have been fortunate enough to learn of their challenges and learn of their experiences. And one of the things that I get to hear from them is that they don't they they're unsure of how to navigate the industry when they just start. And so the question is, where do I start from? The other thing that is a challenge is that they don't receive feedback. They might not get responses and even rejections. They might not get the job that they were seeking. And so that becomes very nerve-wracking for them. One thing that I've also noticed is engineering students tend to have a different perception from employers. And so that gap tends to create frustration, in fact, on both ends, because there's just a difference in perception. And then if you've already had a job and you've just gone through maybe first 2 or 3 years within the job and you don't necessarily like it and you're seeking a better opportunity, there is also fear to leave your current position and move on to a new position, because what if the new position is going to be similar to your experience, and how do you navigate that fear? So a lot of this emotionally just creates some, doubt, hopelessness, and uncertainty in the future. And sometimes it does actually lead to desperation, where you're now just seeking for any job. You're seeking for just anything, just so that you get a paycheck, and that's that. So I've kind of had experience with seeing this firsthand and working with my mentees and this motivated me to want to make this presentation and provide some practical steps that could be useful as you navigate the industry. So the best way I could really frame all of this is by providing this framework that you can see in the slide. And you as a person really are at the center of it all. And the way I look at it is, I look at it as like there are 4 pillars here, or 4 factors rather. And the first one is that, okay, you do get an education, you do go to college, you complete, you graduate, you do have an education, and now you have this education and you have potential skills that you can build on or you can develop. And these skills, in the grand scheme of things, is that you are ultimately providing some sort of service to the world. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, like the difference between skills and service. And as a result of developing your skills, providing this service, you do get a compensation. And many people, when they think of compensation, they think of just like the paycheck, like, okay, it's something physical, you get the money and you can spend it the way you want. But compensation and other benefits, but there are other benefits as well when you do provide a service, when you do develop your skills, is like you are just happy. You are happy to serve just naturally. There is just that inert nature as a human to serve and do good in a way in this world. And so that joy is what I see sometimes people sacrifice, the joy and the happiness to just provide that skill and that service and that service. And I want to really actually maybe take the time here to describe what I mean by skills versus service. So I am a water treatment engineer, and part of my skill set is doing design calculations for pumps, for tank sizing. But in the grand scheme of things, the service that I provide is I clean water, I treat water, I provide potable water for people to drink. And so sometimes that tends to get mixed up. But anyway, this really is the framework and the center is you. And the question is, how do we bring out that joy that you want to say, like, I feel good when I'm doing this. I feel happy to be doing this. I feel happy to go to work and get things done. How do we sustain that flame? Because that is where I see a lot of people just a little bit confused on that and sometimes not too happy about the choices that you've made. So to start off with, since you are the center of this all, the best way I can start from, or the best step I can begin with rather, is know thyself. And there's a lot of personal development material and resources where you can, grow spiritually, emotionally, and physically. But in the context of this presentation, I'm just going to narrow it down to factors that relate to a job or career. And the 4 factors that I could think about are rather location, interests, the pay scale, and developing hard, soft, and software skills. And I'm going to explain a little bit more in depth for each one of them. So when it comes to location, and a lot of people, when you first are looking for a job, especially when you're starting out, you get a recruiter or someone say, where would you prefer to be located? Or are you open to relocation? Or where would you, are you open to relocation? And sometimes when people think, okay, location, it's just a physical space. Like, okay, if you say I work in New York City, then it's just, oh, I'm just going to New York City. But really, when you think about that from your standpoint, it's not just a physical location. The question would rather, a better question for yourself would be, what kind of environment would you like to be in? Like, what does, for example, in this case, New York City provide? And whatever New York City provides, is it the environment that would allow you to thrive? Would it provide you opportunities outside your job that you would enjoy pursuing, and it allows you to grow? And that's where, again, knowing yourself is a very important thing. And people tend to look at it from an external point instead of an internal point. For example, I am very outdoorsy, so I thrive in environments that allow me to go outside, whether to bike or to hike, or just go to a farmer's market. I love being outside. And so when I think of location, I think of what environment would allow me to do that. And so as a result of that, even you carry your environment. You don't necessarily have to be in a specific location. So I've been fortunate enough to travel around the United States and carry that environment. So I always find a place, one environment or a neighborhood that's outdoorsy. And knowing that about, at least in my case, knowing that about myself has helped me to navigate and not be too stressed about location. Because if I can find what makes me thrive, then I could be in Montana, I could be in Alabama, I could be in New York City, I could be in Colorado, I could be in California, and carry that environment with me. And so maybe that's one way to get started when you're thinking about looking for a job. It's like location. Does it provide you the environment that will allow you to thrive? Second one is interest. And that's also a very common question that recruiters or hiring managers will ask and say, what are your interests? And sometimes it's a really difficult question to answer, because sometimes we confuse service, again, versus skills. For example, just when I started off, when the idea of, oh, I want clean water and I want people to not get sick if they don't drink clean water. If they drink contaminated water, they're going to get sick. And that idealized version of it just sounded so exciting. But then the question is, what does it take to clean water? Now I have to sit down, put up a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, put in design calculations. And the question is, do I enjoy doing that? If I do not enjoy doing that, maybe I have to find a different platform, a different platform where that allows the skills that I want to keep doing. And sometimes sometimes we just get overwhelmed by this idea of service, that we forget that we still have to get those things done. And if we don't enjoy pursuing and developing those skills, then we're not going to enjoy our job or our career. So we have to just distinguish those two. Like even right now in this pandemic, for example, I think the doctors and nurses are so heroic, but not everybody can be a doctor and not everybody can be a nurse. But ultimately they are caring for people. So kind of have to just know that. And so the second thing I would say is, what do you think you like? Sometimes you might not not get to know distinguishing service and skills, but what do you think you like? And go with that. And if you have the opportunity, shadow someone who's pursuing your interests, and just see if it's something that you would want to do. And then the other thing is, what are you curious about, or what frustrates you naturally? So I grew up, for example, in my hometown of Lusaka. I grew up where every year people died of cholera, and it just frustrated me as a young kid. It frustrated me, and I was just like, when I grow up, I want to become a water engineer. I want to fix this water engineering problem. And I took it all the way to grad school until I finally got the opportunity to be in this field that I am right now. So the other thing that I would say to look into is your skills. Now, people sometimes when they look at skills, they might think it's just, things that you do, like when you go to work, you're told to type up a memo, or you're told to make some design calculations, or you're taken into the field. But skills are skills are actually tools, and every industry has tools that they use to deliver a product, to deliver a service. So learning what the skills are, whether it's hardware, software, and even how to work with other people, those are soft skills. That's something that you have to learn. That's something that you have to understand. And the reason is because many people think, okay, I go into a job and my manager tells me to use the software and it's hard and I don't want to do that. We're not understanding that that software is the tool that that company or that industry uses to get the results that they desire. So if you don't like learning about software, that's a good inclination that maybe you need to re-strategize on what skills you need to learn. But ultimately, every industry has skills that has skills that you have to learn, or at least tools that you have to get comfortable with. And that's something that it would be necessary to navigate that. And it, like I said, it could be hardware, it's software, and soft skills in terms of relating with other people. The next one is space health. When I talk to people that are looking for a job, one thing that they don't mention a lot is the pay. But at the same time, one thing that people don't realize is your industry is part of the marketplace. There is trade going on in your industry. So that's just how we've built our society around an economy. And every industry, whatever you have in your possession, has come out of some sort of transaction with money and just the economy in general. So understanding that even our skills as engineers, our jobs or jobs in general are valued in the marketplace. So even as you navigate where you would like to work, your interests, and what skills you're interested in developing, it's also necessary to know what's your value in the marketplace. And it's not a value on you as a person, but rather you as just the skills that you have. If you went to college and you gained this education, that brings out a value in the marketplace. And so understanding your value in the marketplace is just very vital, because that will help you in negotiations with jobs, but it will also give you a comfortability of knowing what you should be expecting, and good ways to learn about your pay is using your public platforms like payscale.com, salary.com, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and in fact, you could also ask people who have retired and who are in the industry. And sometimes people are a little bit uncomfortable in talking about money, but maybe people who have retired and people who are willing to share their experiences, you can learn from them and say, hey, what were you making when you were working? And just kind of get an idea. Because I think in that way, you get to know really what your value is worth. So once you have an idea of your interests, your location, and the skills you want to develop, and your value in the marketplace, it's now a good time then to learn about the industry you're in, learn about the industry, and learn about what problems the industry deals with. In my case, I am in the industry of treating water, and my problems, the current problems are, for example, PFAS, lead pipes that have to be removed. And so these are the hot topics currently. And knowing that kind of helps me to position myself of how I could provide a service in those problems and address those problems and be part of the solution. In also learning about the industry, it's important to learn who the stakeholders are because they're not just engineering consultants in the water industry, for example. They are there are people that make the equipment, like the filters, uh, UV lights. They are the regulators. There's the EPA, and so there are all these different people that are in this water industry. And in kind of knowing that, it also allows me to have more opportunities to figure out what role uh, fits, what role fits rather. I have colleagues who are on the regulation side of water. I am in the consulting side, and there are people that are making those equipment. So industry is pretty big, and there's really lots of opportunities. So how do you get to learn about the industry? Like how do you, because the industry is like, okay, what is that? It seems like a very, it's more of a concept than really concrete, but industry, the great way to do that is through a conference. The thing about stepping out of college, for example, is that the difference rather is that in college, everything is divided. You have the Department of Health, the Department of Engineering, the Department of Mathematics. So you kind of know if you go into an engineering building, probably like 99% of the people in that building are engineering students. But when you expand your horizons outside of college, you need to now start finding concentrations of people that are pursuing your interests. And a great way to do that is conferences. So conferences where you can, meet people directly that are related to your interests. It's also a great way to learn what the biggest issues are in your industry. And at conferences, there's so many activities going on, different presentations, and webinars and workshops. And this will allow you, with that diversity of opportunity, this will allow you to identify what interests you have and what you like and what you don't like. And so that's really a great way to kind of do that, to do that. Another one is an opportunity to learn of company needs. What is the company, what are companies looking for? Because in conferences, you get to meet senior management of companies and you get to learn what the company needs. It's also a great platform for recruitment and hiring opportunities. So yeah, conferences are a great way to get connected to your interests. Also joining professional groups and organizations. Become a member of organizations. For example, I am a member of the American Water Works Association, but that's because my interests are within water, and National Society of Professional Engineers, because my interests are in getting to know more engineers in general. And then Society of Women Engineers, again, getting to know female engineers. So this expands my network, and it helps me to get additional resources that I would not get from my company, or just I wouldn't get from the people around me because they're not engineers and they might not relate to what I'm doing. But also, it's a great way to connect with more people. And more so, it's a great way to learn how to develop your communication skills, how to present yourself, and to kind of give yourself a framework or a scale as to how you're performing in the industry, really, because then you're not comparing yourself just to the people right around you, but you're really trying to understand where you fit in the space of interest. And so joining these groups, and there are a lot more, and just Google the groups. There's a lot of engineering groups out there to join, and I'm sure there are a lot of resources associated with them, and great connections as well. Another one is connecting with alumni, and connecting with your career office. Sometimes people tend to forget about this, that when you graduated, you just didn't graduate with, you just didn't graduate alone. You actually graduated as a family. So there you have the potential to connect with alumni. And that's actually, in fact, when you're networking in the real world, it's very easy to start with people that went to the same college as you because you have something right away in common. But the good thing about that is when people graduate, they decide to spread their wings and travel and work in different parts of the US and work in different parts of the world. And so if you ever thought in saying, okay, I want to do engineering in India, there's probably somebody from your alma mater who is in India doing engineering. So there are a lot more opportunities having that sort of network. The other thing is the career office. They conduct job fairs and conferences, and they host potential employers. And I don't know if it's every alma mater, but if you're an alumni, they probably would provide an exception because you are still part of the university for life. And so that's just really a great way to reconnect with your college. And then speaking of alumni themselves, again, universities tend to have alumni portals that you can join, and you can find out who's who, where they are, and what they're doing, and how they could be of service. I'm, for example, connected with the University of Colorado Boulder, and they know exactly what I'm doing. And if there's anybody who needs or who has interest in what I'm doing, they can reach out to me and say, hey, would you like to do this? Would you like to advise this person? So that's pretty helpful. But I'm also learning about what opportunities are out there as well. LinkedIn does a very good job in terms of connecting people who have graduated from the same college. There's just an algorithm where if you type in, if on your profile you have your university there, they can let you know the next time you search someone, they can let you know whether that person went to the same university, and if there's room for that connection, there's room for that connection. And I've had people reach out to me just on the basis of graduating from Miami University or graduating from the University of Colorado. So to continue on with connecting with academia, people tend to just like graduate, they get done with the class and they never talk to the professors again. But connecting with the professors again is also very vital, especially professors that are connected with research that is relevant to the industry. It's a great way to keep in touch with it's just a great way to be that connector between academics and the industry, really. And it just keeps you up to date with what research is going on, and groundbreaking research and how it can serve the industry and being a part of it. And I know sometimes I've seen people even pursue PhDs, they're doing some research that is relevant to the industry, but they're also working. So it's connecting with academia is also a great way to connect in general. So the other thing, the last step really is enjoying the process. Enjoying the process. As you can see in the slide, really, there's this baker here who has messy hands, and is just like, you know, cooking something, baking or about to bake something. But it's pretty messy when you're just baking and trying to put things together, trying to put the ingredients together. But at the end of it all, these amazing cookies come out from this baking process. And that's just how I feel it is when it comes to navigating your career and looking for a good a good job that will help you build on your career. So it does take time really to discover yourself. It takes time to discover your strengths, and it takes time to discover your weaknesses as well, and know what you like and dislike. And sometimes people might wonder, like, I thought I was going to like this job and I don't like it anymore. And I thought I was going to like this, I didn't like it anymore. And that is definitely okay. It also takes time to develop the right relationships, to connect and develop the right relationships. And even when I talk about connecting with people at conferences, with the school, alumni, like you're not always going to have successful connections. People might not respond to you. People might connect with you for a while and then they drop off. And sometimes people are just in a different space at that time because of just life. And so it does take time to really develop really good connections and to grow that. It also takes time to master your craft. Sometimes when you don't like something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not something you shouldn't be doing. It just means that it just takes more execution of repetitive action to get it to a point where you actually enjoy it. With my career, there's just been phases so far from like, I didn't like doing this. And then now I love it because I've gotten to a point where I've just mastered it and it's enjoyable. So really, there are lots of wins and losses, redirections, failures, mistakes. There's a lot of that goes into this process, but really, it's just part of the journey. It's part of the process, and so enjoy it. Um, and with that, there again, some key takeaways I'd like to say is just continue to get to know yourself, continue to strive for that. It's more internal than it is external, and continue to make those connections in the industry. Learn about the industry and where it's going. Especially even now, post the pandemic, it's important to really pay attention to how is your industry going to change with after the coronavirus pandemic, and continue to make connections, continue to grow. And it's the connections. Connections just take so much time. So continue to grow and make connections, and then just enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. Sometimes like it can get a little bit emotional, it can get a little bit tough, but really it's just part of the process. So with that, does anybody have any questions?